Reyna Tropical live on Morning Becomes Eclectic. Woo! From KCRW's Annenberg Performance Studio right here. Hello, good morning to the audience. So great to have you here. And to you listening, we're so happy to have you tuned in on this Wednesday. Also want to give it up for Ney Mapalo on bass, synths, and drum beats over here. And Fabi, Reyna.
Hola, hola.
Hola. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I'm feeling. You know, that's definitely happening.
Yeah, I'm feeling also.
Yeah.
You just released your debut album last Friday. It hasn't even been a week, right?
I don't even know what day it is.
Me neither. That's why I'm asking you.
But what I know is that since the beginning of the year, just waiting for this moment to happen Friday.
Yeah.
It feels like just yesterday that literally, and I'm like, people always say that. It feels like just yesterday, but I get it. You know, like now I'm really understanding. It does feel like it was just a week ago that I was thinking to myself, like, is this even going to happen? Like, what's it going to feel like when it's packaged? Like, what's it going to look like, sound like? So it feels like 100 centuries and also 2 days at the same time.
Yeah. At what point were you thinking, is this even going to happen? Like, what part of the journey are you thinking back on when you say that?
I'm just thinking, like about when I like just couldn't even get out of bed, you know, and like, and just, just that, just how is anything gonna happen?
Yeah.
And so to get to the point of the album just really showing itself to me as the place to wake up for, as a thing to release and express to, that took a huge community. So, so that was like April of last year.
Reyna Tropical, the project started out like 2016.
Yeah.
8 years ago now. And of course, you started with your musical partners, Sumo Hair, and
Totally.
you released your EPs together and like went on tour and had so much momentum and like amazing output, fans, sold out shows. And, you know, I understand part of what you're referring to is the unexpected loss of your musical partner. And I mean, I can't even imagine what that was like. And at what point did you know, though, that you needed to continue doing it as Reyna Tropical without Sumo Hair here?
Well, it that came to me pretty quickly. That was definitely the question.
Yeah.
And it was an immediate, you have to keep going.
It was immediate.
It was immediate.
Yeah.
There was no, I questioned it as my own individual person because it was hard. But it was always a, yes, you need to go and this is what you have to do for us, you know, and this is what you have to do for yourself. And, you know, for me, I just think it's the best way for me to honor him and us and myself, you know, and everything that we worked towards and just the promise that I made through Reyna Tropical and through that relationship of like, I'm going to continue to be the best version of myself and to explore myself and to expand myself and to offer the conversations that are, for example, held in Malegria to the world. You know, it's no longer just me and him having those conversations, that now I can have those conversations with you, with the whole world, you know? So, yeah.
When I know some of the songs that are on the album Alegria started with Sumo when he was here, and then some of them are like, you started on your own. Do you still, though, like have some sort of collaboration or conversation with him in a way while you're making the new songs? I think about that like with people that have passed away, and sometimes I think like, what would be their advice about this thing? Oh, I wish they were here and I could ask them. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I know them well enough to kind of like know what they might say.
Totally.
You know, do you have that kind of experience while you're making new music?
I love this question actually because I haven't been able to directly talk about this with anybody, but all the songs that are on this album were made pre his passing.
Oh, okay.
So that's a really interesting thing for me, because when I listen to them, they are telling the story of of the time after he passed. Even the songs that we made together, even the songs that I made individually, are talking about how to deal with grief.
Wow.
And they're talking about how to be in relationship and how to be moved and guided by the earth and by the ancestors. And that was not at all having in mind his passing. So the music itself, every single song was written pre-Sumo's passing.
Okay.
The arrangement of it all was post. And that was 100% in conversation with him. It's interesting. I talk about this often because I always say, like, we were training for this moment.
Yeah.
You know, because before we got on stage, we would always ask, like, we would always say, may our ancestors use us as the vessel, like, for us to be able to send and deliver the message and for us to receive the words, you know? And we felt like we could really feel when we were in that right movement. Like, we would get off stage and we'd be like, did you, like, that was it. we got in there, you know, we journeyed in, you know, and so I know what that feeling is when I'm locked in with him. I know how to journey with him in this kind of like airwave movement. And it's kind of funny to talk about because I don't really feel like we have the words. We don't have words that we as a society respect to really be in that conversation. You know, we have words that like kind of seem like taboo or like mystical, you know, but it's a real feeling. And for me, this music is the best way that I can describe that journey. Yeah.
The new album, it's called Malegria, and I was playing music earlier. One song from Manu Chao that I understand was sort of the inspiration, at least behind the title of your new album. Can you tell us more about like coming up with that title, and maybe even was that a title that you guys both came up with together, or is that more recently?
Yeah, no, none of the album at all was conceptualized with him in his physical form.
Okay.
So, Malegria, well, I had known Sumo was a huge Manu Chao fan, as you can tell, and you know, I became that too, just in conversation with him and sharing music, you know, and so we would listen to that song together. But randomly, in my grief process, I started to look at interviews with him, and I was wondering, you know, what's gonna be the title of this album, and there's like 5 seconds in an interview where he talks about his relationship to Malegria. And I felt like he was speaking to me in that moment, you know, because it was exactly what I was experiencing. And it also is exactly what this music is, you know, it's joy, but it's sadness. Lyrically, it's sadness. In the beats, it's dance, you know? And so, yeah, and it was like that in an instant. It's Malegria. And that's kind of how this whole album was. Like the interludes, I have hundreds and hundreds of voice messages with him. Did
you go through all of them?
Well, that's the thing, you know, I had 24 hours to figure it out.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm a procrastinator. And so I decided that on the last day of recording, I was going to choose them. And I just kind of randomly hit different ones, and those are the ones that stood out. Oh, wow. And that's what I chose.
I love that you mentioned the interludes because I love that element of the album. It's really sweet. And also for me, you know, I don't speak Spanish, so it was like I got to understand more about the project. The interludes are in English mostly. And one that I think probably would stand out to a lot of people is you mentioning that in the beginning you were anti-singing.
Yes, I still am.
Are you still anti-singing? Why are you still anti-singing? Because you're singing so beautifully.
You know, I honestly, this is because I don't know my body enough. I don't know I haven't perfected and I'm in the process of getting to align all parts of myself. And when you sing, you really have to clear the like what I always say is like the river in my body, and that I actually started to feel when I started to sing. I could literally envision this river flowing, and then, there's just every part of you is moving, you know, and it takes me, and it's hard, basically.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. So respect to the singers, because some people have it really naturally and they just know how to be in their body like that. So I'm learning.
It feels really good.
Thank you.
The way that you're doing it. I mean,
Thank you.
I think part of singing is just like using your own authentic voice, regardless of like how skilled it is. And that is definitely portrayed. So
nice.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
I appreciate
yes.
that acknowledgement.
We appreciate you being here. And another interlude that stood out to me on the album was the last one with you and Sumo Hair talking. And it was more him talking, but it seemed very clear that you all agree on having a purpose with the music that you make. And can you share more like what that agree? Because you don't say what the purpose is. You're just like, yes, we have a purpose. And so what is that purpose that you all share with your music?
Well, the name of the interlude is called Queer Love in Afro Mexico. And it's, we came into that sort of commitment when we started to understand and understand our voice, basically, and for me, queer love is like is specifically to Mexico, specifically to machista and sexism, and specifically to indigenous women, the injustices caused by how society treats women, the murder of missing indigenous women, and also culturally not being able to be liberated in our queerness, in our sexuality, being repressed as women. We can't feel ourselves, we have to be a certain way. And so I grew up with that. And for me, my commitment is that. And for Sumo, and what I learned from Sumo was his story as a dark-skinned brown man is to fight for the injustices against Afro-Mexicanos, which in Mexico are completely underlooked and completely erased, So we, in our conversations, like that's what we talked about every single day. I shared my experience, as like a light-skinned queer woman, and he shared his as a straight dark-skinned brown man, and it was beautiful because we were really fighting for each other, and he came into my communities, queer spaces, and he learned, and then when we were like in the like really machista hetero spaces where people would come to him to talk about me, and he would stand up for me, and I would do the same for him. We went to Guerrero, and I was committed and dedicated to learning about those experiences, and I feel so grateful that I was trusted with those conversations.
Yeah.
So I just feel so expanded by queer love in Afro Mexico, and the whole range of injustices that exist between those two.
I think a lot, like in your music, it represents inclusivity and the multi-dimensionness of people. And then I think about language and the languages that we use, whether it's like Spanish or English, and how those could be considered part of a system of oppression, which is interesting, right? And then you're making songs about that sort of thing. And then I imagined you as an artist using other modalities like to be inclusive outside of language.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what that is for you outside of the language that you include in the music to kind of create a more open space for everybody to thrive.
Well, in the physical way of recording this music, a lot of these songs were literally recorded on the beach or in the open air, and for me that's really important because often we go into these dark spaces with no windows and no sun and no fresh air, and we are like, let's write an album. To me, that feels counterintuitive to what I'm trying to do, which is open people, help people feel themselves, so it was really important for me to literally, whether you can hear it or not, the ocean breeze is in those vocals. The ocean breeze is in that music, from Colombia to Guerrero to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So I want that, to me, the intention, the of every single element like that is really important, and so, yeah, beyond language, the sounds and not just like, okay, let me get some timbales and put them in there. It's the fusion of it all. You know, it's like the honoring the mixedness, the honoring the people that we truly actually are. You know, our ancestors are from the earth, and our ancestors are also unknown. Like there's a lot that we don't know either, you know? So I want people to be in that, like, what is happening? I recognize that. I don't recognize that. I feel like I'm at the beach. Also, like, I'm having a whole identity crisis. You know, but at the same time, you can go that deep, or you can also be like, I just want to move to this.
Yeah.
I just want to fall asleep to this.
Yeah. I'm also wondering what is happening with this parrot pinata.
Yeah.
Speaking of nature, and we're going to continue with more music, but I do have to ask because I was like, oh, there's a parrot on stage and there's a parrot on the album cover.
Yeah.
Is a parrot have a special importance for you, or what are we working with here?
Well, it has a lot. As you can tell, I'm not someone that just has like one answer, but I'm going to tell you the simplest one. Okay. And basically, the last song that Sumo and I wrote together is called Pajarito, and he would always say like he's like this parrot, and again, you know, that to me felt like just such a clear message of like how he was always going to be with me, and to honor him through a bird that is native to his lands, but that is also endangered, that is also displaced, you know, and.
Yeah.
So for me, the parrot, this exotic bird that is so mistreated, is representative of just such a huge story, you know, between me and Sumo, and also between us and our culture.
Yeah. And on the album cover, there's a parrot, which is basically like giving you wings on your back too, which I'm going to look at that and see Sumo now when I see the album cover.
You know, it's ancestors. You know, it's Sumo for me, and it's, I hope, your ancestors for you. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Reyna Tropical. I could talk to you so much longer, but we want to get more to the music. Fabi and Nay. Also, while you get ready, let's give it up one time for the wonderful conversation.